Design Talk Live is brought to you by Allison Eden Studios. Design custom stained glass, mirror, and mosaic tiles for hospitality, commercial and residential design projects. Explore the limitless possibilities with Allison's wallpaper, fabric options, and custom accessories. To learn more, click the link in the description below. This episode is also brought to you by the Capital One Venture Card. Earn unlimited 1.25 times miles with zero annual fee. Earn miles on every purchase, plus additional miles on hotels and rental cars booked through Capital One Travel. Apply online for VentureOne by clicking the link below. This episode is also brought to you by Join inCrowd Digital Contact Cards. Create your free contact card in under a minute and start making more friends, growing your network, and staying connected. Join the inCrowd today. This episode was also made possible through the generous support of Serena Martin and the 24/7 Creative Agency. Whether you are an individual or a company, we deliver creative marketing strategies 24/7 in order to connect, partner, and develop exceptional brand experiences. To learn more, click the link below. Discover their unique brand marketing solutions 24/7.
When I was starting out in the late 90s, early 2000s in Chicago, even though you were in a literal mansion, by law, they could not sell the mattresses in the guest bedroom that had never been touched. I mean, literally there for show. So I made a deal. I mean, not with the devil, God knows they were angels, but I made a deal that I would come back after the sale and pick up said mattresses, etc. Because I guess it's a bed bug law, who knows? But what better gift to give someone who has either nothing or just starting out than a good night's rest with a great mattress? And it was Sealy. It was the good brands. It wasn't like, an air mattress under the couch. So from that, it became people calling me all the time, like, hey, we're doing a clean out in Skokie. Hey, we're doing a clean out and, pick a label, pick a town. And it became, yes, I made money selling furniture. Yes, I made money refinishing. Yes, I made a good living for my family. But I also got to do this, dare I say, back alley gift. And I ended up running a rummage for Kenilworth Union Church about 10 years ago. Started out as a volunteer, then became a team leader, ended up working and running it. And it was the first year that we ran a rummage without a 30-yard dumpster. So everything was either donated, recycled, dropped off the next rummage, the next, whoever was doing a bazaar next. And as silly as it sounds, just not having that dumpster there, thinking it's going to go in the ground when somebody somewhere, maybe it's a Boy Scout troop on the south side of Chicago. We had 25 backpacks left over. We drove them down. We filled them with pencils and paper and notebook binders. What most people see as garbage is a treasure some 5-7 miles away, depending on what side of the tracks, if there is a proverbial track. So that made me feel like a better human. Yes, it's good to make money. God knows it's good to make money, but to do something with your particular view of the world where you see a need and you can plug that need in just by being thoughtful. And then once you start doing it, then people call you and say, hey, I got this thing. Hey, would you mind? And I had a van. And, once you have a van, you never have a Sunday off. So
From Spotify, Design Talk Live Studios, Joseph Hecker Inc., and the Live Broadcast Network, this is the Design Talk Live podcast, the podcast that explores the topics and conversations that matter to the design community. Here's your host, Joseph Hecker.
Hey there, design peeps. The magic behind the Design Talk Live podcast is the variety of guests and the topics they choose to bring to the show. I believe that it's variety that helps make a community, and it's storytelling that helps inspire each of us. On this episode, I'm joined by Jen Zervas, who started out her career, like many of us, with other plans, and suddenly built an entire career repurposing estate items and helping others in her community. I'm loving the variety of guests that we're getting on the show, and the variety of ways that people are crafting their business and giving back within the design community. Well, without further delay, let me introduce you to Jen Zervas. Hey, design peeps, this is Joseph Hecker. I'm here with Jen Zervas, and we met on social media. Jen has such a cool perspective on the topic of recycle, repurpose, and restore. In the monologue, you might have caught a little bit of that, but now we've got Jen here with us. Jen, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon. Nice to have you. Nice to be had.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your company so that people kind of have a little bit of context about who you are and what you do?
I grew up in the Deep South, and my grandmother was a fanatic about flea markets and antique shops, and she would drag me along on all these little ventures when I was 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. And years later, I was in college in Athens, Georgia, and, as most college kids, did not have a lot of money. So I started dragging things from what we called a potter's house, which is modern day Salvation Army, and I would fix it. I would reupholster it, I'd reglue it, I'd reclamp it. And, for $10, I could have a dresser, and for $15, I could have a couch. And that just kind of manifested into always being hands-on with my surroundings. While I was in college, people started bringing me things to fix, sew, stitch, sand, whatever. And I never thought about it as a career. I was studying to be, thought it was pre-law, but it ended up being English literature, liberal arts degree, and then moved to Chicago. And it just continued. I had a garage, got married when I was 30 years old, and we had a separate, a garage that was away from the property that was heated. And I would be dragging things home from garage sales and the occasional curb. And I think about the third or fourth year of my marriage, my husband said to me, Jen, in Chicago, we put cars in garages. I was like, what an incredible waste of space. And he used to say quite offhandedly, you should open a store. You should open a store. And we had 3 little kids. They were 4, 3, and a baby. And one day I found a little shop next to a Starbucks, and I opened a store. And it was it was called domestic eclectic, domestic eclectic, meaning that everything flew. I mean, it could be a cool planter, it could be a cool mirror, it could be a cool lamp, but none of it was made in China. None of it was out of a manufacturing plant. It was all something repurposed. And yeah, that was 2003, right after 9/11. And it just grew from there. And now we're in 2023? So 20 years, self-employed, loving it. I don't know if there is a manifest destiny, but I can't imagine doing anything else. So that's got to be good, right?
That's amazing. So many questions. So you kind of started this. It happened organically. When did you realize that it was a business, and how did you kind of turn it into a business?
Without being sad or maudlin, 9/11, my children were playing on the carpet. I was watching Good Morning America, and like everybody else of a certain age, we know exactly where we were. And yes, I'd been doing it passively. Yes, I had little children. Yes, I had a full life. But 9/11 really brought home the carpe diem aspect of, don't wait, do what you want to do now. I wanted to be a hands-on mom, but I also wanted something that gave me creativity. I don't know if you know anything about Athens, Georgia, but it is a bastion of creativity. And coming from here, where I live now, Athens, Georgia, to Chicago, there was just no release. There was no, being a mother is wonderful. Being a wife can be good. I'm told. But to do something with your hands, to make something better, to sand, buff, stain, glaze, whatever the term is, and give something new life, that's resurrection. And 9/11 literally woke me up to, we're not guaranteed 60, 70, 50. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. So do something today, in effect, carpe diem. And that, plus my husband telling me that the garage had to have cars in it when it snowed, yada, yada, yada. Um, then it became, I can do this. And I don't know why, but when someone, and many people have told me this, when someone says there's just no way, that is such a fire in my belly to, well, hell yeah, there's a way. When it became a business, when I realized it was a business, was the year I opened, and within a year, the stage set directors were coming from Steppenwolf, Theater in the Round. We had 2 movies under our belt. And when I say we, I mean me and the store, which I somehow consider we. And I was a mom of 3 little kids under the age of 4 in a 750 square foot vanilla box and ringing $2,000 and $3,000 on a Saturday.
Wow.
With it was just crazy. And again, I think there was a massive sadness in this country after 9/11. But for me, it was, let's just do this. What's the worst case scenario? What could go wrong? And so far, so good.
Now, how did you go about repricing? So you pick up vintage items. How did you find vintage items? And
It was
well,
back in the day. This was before the internet. That's how old I am. The Friday paper would come out and it would list all the garage sales, and I would go home and I would MapQuest. I think I bought a TomTom, which is the early GPS thing, and I would go to all these estate sales, garage sales, repricing things. Honestly, my business plan, I think, was on a bar napkin, and it was basically make $75 a day, 50 for the rent, 5 for gas, and 20 to reappropriate, which is insane, but it worked. And I never wanted to gouge people, so I didn't. I It was the oddest thing. It was not about like triple your money. It was about, okay, if I have 10 in it, let's try to get 25, 30. The idea, and I think this works in all businesses, nobody wants a customer. They want a client. They want someone to come home and say, oh my God, I found the coolest store, and she had the coolest things, and she's the funniest lady. And that just kind of grew, like you said, organically. We were right next to a Starbucks. People would come by and chat. It was a social, loving place. And I couldn't have been more grateful. I moved. That's my first store was in Chicago. My second store, because the kids were now being school age, was in Wilmette. And I was in Wilmette for 12 and a half years, which is a North Shore, Chicago suburb. And it was my second home. It was the happiest place I'd ever been in. That was literally a storefront.
That's awesome. So as far as markup went, did you have a calculation for, because you did a little bit of math there. You said, so I bought for 10, but you sold for, did you say like 20?
Or somebody would call me and say, hey, I've got to clean out in Skokie. You got to be here by noon and you got to take it all. I would take what I could that I knew I could resell. And like we talked about, or what we were hopefully going to talk about, I would take the rest of donation because in essence, thank God for Advil, but between my van and my back, and the occasional 8-year-old son that I could talk into helping me, there was a lot of times it was pure profit, because someone just wanted it gone. And that was the thing about living where I lived in the North Shore, Chicago. They didn't want people traipsing through their house. They wanted to make a phone call and they wanted it to be gone. So I was, as the years progressed, as any person with a reputation, they knew I would do it, no muss, no fuss. So again, I would pull up, everything would be in the garage or on one level, load the van once or twice. What I could take to charity, I took to charity. What I could make money from on the store, I made money from with the store. So there was no math in it. Again, English major.
Yeah, no. Now, as far as restoration, did you how did the restoration projects go? Like, or did you kind of, were some of the items just great and you just resold them, or like,
I
what
mean,
was
I
that
learned
process
that
like?
it took me 10 years not to reinvent the wheel. When I was before I started the store, I ended up taking night classes. This retired gymnast from the Olympics had converted his garage into a woodworking shop. And every Tuesday night for 3 different sessions, I would go in. I was horrifically afraid of table saws. I think there was a Little House on the Prairie episode in the 1970s that stayed with me, but I wanted to get comfortable with, I'm great with a sander, but you bring a blade out and I can't, so um
I'm
the
the same with
irony,
angle grinders. Angle
good
grinders
Lord,
freak me
right.
out.
But I could not get over my fear of I like all 10 of my fingers on my hand situation. So the irony is, in the beginning, I was considered a master refinisher, meaning I could take something from 19th century, early 20th century, bring it back, fix veneer, apply, applique, you name it, I could do it. French glazes. This is again before the internet. I had no formal training beyond the classes I took with the woodworker. Um, there's a old saying that it's in the mind's eye. I can walk into anybody's house and see a damaged piece, and then in my brain, I can actually see exactly how to fix it while the person is talking to me about God only knows what. I've tuned out by that point. But the first few years, the only way I paid myself, actually paid Jenny, was I took the services and paid myself. The store just kept the store alive. So if the store rent was 2,000 and we made 2,500 in sales, it just kept the store alive. It was me fixing things for people and that went on for the better part of a decade until the internet exploded. And then
Wow.
when the internet exploded, my God, my goodness, I couldn't even keep up. People were shipping things to me from Dallas to fix, and I'm shipping them back from Chicago. I mean, I'd never heard of such a thing.
Yeah.
That's how the reputation went.
Wow. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, I do want to dive into kind of the giving back, donating to local shelters, and where that started to fold into your business and to your business model. So we'll take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
You could go to any tile store and buy a white or a beige tile any time of day. But we want to create something fun and unique for the client. At Allison Eden Studios, we custom create, design, and manufacture glass mosaic tiles. It was always clear to me that I would own my own business because I was unemployable. I actually love doing my own thing. I really didn't want to listen or conform to what I was told to do. I run the production floor, and my husband, Gary, does all the business.
Business, financial, accounting, social media.
I get to do the fun stuff.
She started off with 2 employees.
And now we're shipping to
Dubai, Macau, Jamaica.
all over the world.
We use the inCrowd every single day. We order all sorts of supplies, office supplies, shipping supplies. I really love the flexibility of the rewards points. We could redeem them for gift cards for our clients or for our employees.
Or for me.
Allison is the one responsible for this artwork. It's really a reflection of her creativity, harnessing it all, putting it together, making it into a business. That's what we do every day.
Hey, design peeps, welcome back to the Design Talk Live podcast. We're here with Jen Zervas of Jen Zervas Decor. Jen, you kind of took us through your business model and how you got started, and you can hear your heart for it and just how it changed your trajectory. Now you've got a heart for giving back, and then in the monologue, you talked a little bit about kind of the problems with
Hold on, when I
giving
have a
back,
dog
like,
barking. Just the dog. Sorry, we have a new rescue and he likes to bark.
No
Go
worries at
ahead.
all. In the monologue, you were talking about somehow, like even the limitations with mattresses and how shelters won't take them for a variety of reasons. When in your business, or how did the giving back fold into the business?
I think it's a lifelong thing. My mother was a college kid when I was born. We lived in the rural South. I have this new rescue and he doesn't have any limitations.
Yeah, no worries.
That's why God invented crates. I grew up very poor, and we had a lot of trying times. My mother was an undergraduate student when I was born. She was in graduate school in Millsaps and Jackson when I was in middle school and grade school. When we got to Memphis for her, our entire life we were not well off. And I saw the charity that our church involved itself in, and thank God for the Greek Orthodox Church. I spent 5 days out of 7 there as a young girl, nowhere to go after school. And I think it goes back to, you know, the old saying about the guy that builds a factory and does really well, but he drove on that road to get to that factory to do really well. So it always occurred to me that, as blessed as I am, that there was somebody out there that could do or could use something. I mean, there were days that I would get so mad at the store because nothing was selling. I'd go on Craigslist and give it away because by God, the energy needed to move. And this young couple, would drive over, or this family would drive from the south side and pick up this table that I couldn't move to save my life, retail wise. And the look on their faces, it's better than any drug. It's better than any vacation, any sunset. Pure gratefulness. And that, there's not a whole big dose of kindness in this world. And when you get to be part of that, that's grace. That's the purest grace imaginable. And in that same process, as I raised my own children, I sent them to mission work in Guatemala. I sent them to mission work in Cuba. I volunteered at soup kitchens. I worked with women's shelters. I really tried to, and again, owning a small business on the North Shore of Chicago, you're not exactly rolling in the dough, but you have a roof over your head. You have a warm meal. You have a fireplace, a sleeping dog, a warm blanket. That's luxury to a majority of this world, and so it just made sense. By working with these religious outreaches and regular outreaches, I just kept getting more and more involved. There's always that one lady at school that shows up with the muffins for the PTA club. That was me, not always homemade, God bless, but I was there. I tried to show up. And honestly, as an homage to what was done for me and my family when I was a little kid in Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee. Poverty isn't a choice. Poverty is a situation. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to be this way. They are that way. So what can we do as a community, especially in the resale community? We're on the front lines of people have estate sales. They just want it gone. The family wants to cash out for the most part. The house needs to be sold. The realtor's coming in. The photography's coming in. They want it gone. I would say to my sisters and brothers who do this for a living, spend the extra $100, $200, grab some more things and drop it off at the shelter. The only way to get in this life, the only way to get anything is to give back. That's when you walk different, you sleep better, you whistle while you work. Because if it's all about capitalism, well, what fun is that?
Now, in the monologue, you shared a little bit about some of the mattress issues. Can you share a little bit about the limitations?
I don't know if it's still the law, but in the beginning, you could not, as an estate sale purveyor, or a person who ran estate sales, you could not by law sell a mattress out of plastic. Salvation Army would not take donations of mattresses. Most of the regular Purple Hearts that each town has a different name for it would not even take mattresses. So I worked exclusively with and I don't want to reveal too much, but it was a cloistered, I'm saying that word right, hopefully, women's shelter in Wrigleyville. It was heavily guarded. You had to meet through a gate, have a passcode to get in. This is where women went when they were being physically stalked. They were appearing in court cases. One part of this facility was where they were housed. The second part of the facility was a warehouse where I serviced, and I would drive up, usually on Sundays when the kids were with their father, and anything I could grab from estate sales that they could use, I would buy, or it would be donated to me. But mattresses were so key because what the shelter did was try to set these women up in apartments. Well, think about your first apartment in college. What did you need? You needed a mattress, you needed a side table, you needed a radio, a toaster, a coffee maker. I mean, the list is rudimentary, but the list is real. And when you have nothing, sir, nothing in this world, you're in danger, your children are in danger, your husband or your spouse or whomever is looking for you, wanting to hurt you, has already hurt you. So for the better part of 15 years, even though there was chaos in my own life, the peace I felt after I left that cloister, it was mana. It was beauty. It was, there is a God, there is goodness. And I never got to meet the women in the living quarters. I didn't see them. I met the guy at the gate and the lady that ran the place for 15 years. I mean, it was that protected. But the law of the land in the early 2000s, up until I left in 2020, was that estate sale people could not sell mattresses. So the dumpster you saw when you pulled up, and I'm talking brand new, barely slept on, nice homes, $2-3 million homes. And what malarkey is that? Give someone a good night's rest, give them a warm place to sleep. They're a different person the next day, So mattresses was the main thing, but anything extra I could pick up that nobody else wanted. A $10 microwave, a coffee maker, anything basic utilitarian, start your house from scratch needs. That's what I tried to do the majority of time. And over the years, as I said earlier, people knew I did it. So they just called all the time, like, hey, I've got this. Hey, may I drop this off at your store? Hey, this might help your charity. They had no idea what my charity was. They just knew that I did it. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. That's a beautiful thing. I do want to cut to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, I want to talk about lessons that you've learned as a business owner and with the giving back, and I would love to kind of pick your brain as far as what you've learned. So We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
Hero Flooring was founded in 2014 with a clear focus on creating the ultimate client experience. Hero Flooring is a national brand of high-performance floor coverings, which includes carpet in broad lumen carpet tile formats, Hero rubber and Nike grind, tile, LVT, engineered wood, and turf.
Hey guys, welcome back to the episode. We're here with Jen, and I'm really excited to pick your brain, Jen, on just what you've learned as a business owner. You've shared so vulnerably and so passionately, and obviously you've learned so much, and you had a lot that just came into through your life experience in your childhood that played out into your business ownership. And I love that you just followed your passion on this and leaned into it. So kudos to you. What are some takeaways if you had to go back in time and talk to your younger self when you were kind of going from when you were working in the garage? What are some tips you would give yourself?
Oh, I mean, I could make a joke and say buy better headphones because they're my friend. I think that fear is a great motivator, and sense of uncertainty. The guy that jumps off the plane with a parachute. Um, I was so scared and so worried about failing that I never saw. I saw the projects that needed doing. I didn't see the projects I had done. So what I would say to 30-year-old Jenny or 33-year-old Jenny when she started the company, you know, give yourself time and it's going to be fine. Anything done with love and repetition, it's only going to get better. I mean, the first pancake we always throw out, right? Doesn't do well, but by the fifth or sixth one, my God, you're Julia Childs. I would just say, you know, to let go of the fear and believe in yourself, even if it doesn't work out. One of my favorite sayings to this day is fall down 7 times, get up 8. Because each time you get up, you're better for it. You're better for it. Scraped, bruised, black and blue, notwithstanding.
Um, as far as so you started out your business and the internet wasn't the is so critical. How does internet and technology play into what you do today?
So I closed my store at her 16th year for my 50th birthday. Um, I had gotten to a point where I did not, I didn't want to deal with the general public anymore. And I don't know what that was. It just was an inner feeling of this is my studio, this is my creative space. And as majority of people were nice, a lot of people were not. And I had a wonderful accountant at the time, and he said, "Do me a favor, he goes, go rent a storage unit." And I was like, "Oh no, I don't. I'm an antique dealer. I don't have a storage unit." He goes, "Just rent a storage unit, Jen, and separate it your books from what's in the store and what the store costs and your insurance and your helpers, and then go spend $250 on a storage unit, and I want you to fill it up, and I want you to list 2 separate books." And the first month I did it, this $250 storage unit generated 5,000 in sales. And my $2,500 store before help or insurance or lights or anything also generated $5,000 with a $3,800 overhead. And I did that 2 more months and I thought, okay, we're done. And it was the nicest, most safest place I'd ever created. It was a 7-room farmhouse. It was the most aesthetically pleasing, most loving place I'd ever built. And not when I say built, I mean occupied. And she was my best friend. She didn't have any dog hair in her. There was no kids' plates with peanut butter and jelly jam on them. It was such an immaculate place. But my time was done there. And then the internet, my God, I can't even tell you, the lady from Boston that spent 3,000 was never going to drive to my little shopping mall mat. The lady, and Pebble Beach was never coming. They would pay to ship. They would buy it from a photo. So the internet took me national in a minute. And the lady from around the corner who, when I finally closed my store, she's like, I always meant to come in. And I was like, woman, I've been here 12 and a half years. Like, what did I have to do? Get naked and run around with Crisco on me? But anyway, the Lord works in mysterious ways and everything teaches us. Everything teaches us. So the internet has been amazing. I am national. I've shipped international. My client base is incredible. And I can't even begin to tell you how it all happened. It's just, what a beautiful ride,
Now, a lot of businesses struggle between profit and for profit and the balance. I met a marketing lady one time and she was coming into startup events and she wasn't making money because she was at startup events. And I was like, you got to do the 80-20 rule. Go get 80% paying clients and then donate 20% of your time to the things that you're passionate about. are you cognizant of your where you spend your time and or are you, does it all just work out?
Um, so I retired, quote unquote, semi-retired to Athens, Georgia in the middle of the pandemic because just like 9/11, I'm like, well, the world is ending. What are we going to do now? I thought I would lose all my studio work. I thought I would lose all my staging work. I thought I would lose all my services work because I was moving to this little college town in Northeast Georgia. I thought that nobody is going to come find me here. I'm going to lose all these clients. I'm going to lose all my California clients because, from Chicago to California is easy, but from nowhere, Georgia, and, you know, what's the old saying? God laughs when you make a plan. I got here, and the first month I did $1,600 in sales, and that was way under what my bills were. And I was like, okay, well, we might have to go get that bartending apron out of the closet. But within 3 months and consternation and, dutifully working online and going out and finding and auctions, I was back to my Chicago math with Athens, Georgia rates. So I literally cut 70% of my overhead by leaving Chicago. So from that, I mean, I don't have an 80/20 rule. I remember when my accountant said, and this was God ages ago, he goes, Jen, you have to write all this stuff down. And I was like, where? Why? It's in my head. He goes, and that, my dear, is the problem. But I am always been, I mean, half my life self-employed, and I've always worked for myself. I've had a few college assistants who are wonderful, but it is literally every day I wake up, I want to work. It is not a job. I want to go out. I want to get my hands dirty. When I travel, when I go see relatives, when I do everything, I miss my home, but I miss my job. And I don't see it as a job. It's like, that's broken. I got to fix it. I got to fix it now. So I think that's the definition of passion, right? I forget about food. I forget about water. I forget about time when I'm doing this. And is it profit? Yeah. I mean, I take something that is beyond broken and bring it back. I don't know if you got to see any of the pictures from the website, but these things come in mangled and torn and beat to shit. And by the grace of God, I've figured out a way with a few helpers, tradesmen, to bring it back to the illusion of perfection. And these things are 100 to 130, 140 years old. That's incredible.
Wow.
And they're not made in China. They're not aluminum alloys. They're going to last to the next generation and the next generation, the next, because that's what in the antique business we call well made. It's not done anymore. We don't have things. I mean, we talk about restoring a 66 Mustang. Tell me your car we're going to restore in 2040, made this decade or last decade. They don't exist. So that's when I say reuse, recycle, repurpose. It's such a gift to be the steward of this type of entity. And yes, and to give back, to donate. We have a company here called Project Safe, and it's all about women's charities. And every time I drive over there with a bag of goodies or a van full of goodies, I'm as gleeful as a 16-year-old going on her first date. And that's as weird as hell, but that's the truth.
Now, because you've been at this for a bit, what trends have you seen? I think repurposed goods have always been in trends, but in trend for a subset of people. There's people that love to go find treasure troves and estate sales, and then you have probably many more that go to Crate and Barrel and Wayfair, and they like to shop for order some stuff on Amazon. All that stuff is going to end up in the trash at some point.
IKEA is my enemy. I know. I'm sorry. They just IKEA. Yeah, I think that I think quality is timeless, and There's a reason the big design houses have stayed the big design houses. I mean, you can't, you can buy something cheap and that's what you'll get. My son is setting up his first apartment in Chicago, and I've been trying to guide him, and like, don't buy the home goods stuff. Go find, here's the link for estatesales.net. Here's the link. He's like, "Oh, Mom, I don't have a truck." I'm like, "I got a guy with a truck. I got a guy. I got a guy." But, even if he moves in 3 years to another town, he can still donate that stuff. And the cycle continues, you see, because these things are real. And when I was there, I got him a 14 by 12 wool rug. And he was like, "That's too big." And I was like, "No, it's perfect." And he was like, "No, it's too big." And we rolled it out and it was perfect.
Yeah.
And again, it's the rudimentary, base first apartment type things, but it was $60 on Chicago Marketplace. And the lady had it in her garage. And it's
Wow.
not in the ground. It's not in a landfill. It's and it belonged to, I think, her ex-mother-in-law, and that's what she wanted out of her house. But there was nothing wrong with it, sir. It was perfectly usable. It just, for her family, it's time it ended. So I don't understand people that buy retail. I feel guilty just going into Costco, A, because I know I'm gonna, blow my credit card out of the water, but B, I don't like big box anything. I mean, except for shoes, we pretty much have everything in this house is resale. Everything. And all my houses have been resale. But there's just too much out there that can be used again.
That's amazing. This has been so fun on in the interior design world. I think we mistake luxury for always having to be new. And I've got friends like Toma Clark, the antiques diva, and she's like, I like to describe her as kind of the Indiana Jones of antiques. She goes all over the world looking for stuff. But there's just so many things right here that people are they're done with it, and it could go on to somebody else. Sometimes straight out of the box, or also with a little extra attention and some refinishing.
And nothing smells better than Murphy's Oil Soap and Windex. I mean, you clean something, you get the new car smell, in essence. It just doesn't have to be, shipped, like you said, drop ship from Amazon. There's something about, I remember after 9/11 and the 2007, 2008 crash, everybody wanted to go run and buy big screen TVs, and the local preachers and pastors was like, "No, go to a local garage sale. That money stays in the community. That money stays in your community. Buying a 65-inch TV, where does that money go?" I mean, again, it's fun to have a TV. We have them, I agree, but we can shop local, support local in so many ways, and the ripple effect is endless. So why not do it? You don't have to do it 90% or 80% of the time, but if you make a conscientious effort to do it, I mean, I don't go to chain restaurants. I try to go to mom and pop. I don't go to big grocery stores. I try to stay out of Home Depot. And nothing against those stores. I'm sure they're good companies, but I would rather go to the local Ace. I'd rather go to the local hardware store, the local lumber store, because these guys are my neighbors. They live in my neighborhood. They're not a corporate franchise.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not going to get any plugs from Home Depot now, but that's fine.
You're probably not going to get that reoccurring check from Home Depot.
Never, ever.
Jen, if you could give our listeners who, are, maybe could possibly start to repurpose and make a business out of this locally, because I think this is a service that could be done anywhere, and it probably should be done. What 3 tips would you give somebody who's listening to this and saying, "You know what, I hadn't thought about that, but I've got a space and I would like to do that"? What tips would you give?
I've mentored quite a few people over the years to do what I do, and they all get the same advice. Be prepared to get dirty, go into the nitty-gritty and love every inch of it, and do what you love. Do what you love. Like, if you're not into wood, don't buy wood. And quality matters. Always seek quality. You're not going to make a macrame piece better. You're going to go somewhere and find something of quality, bring it to the skin, bring it back up to glory. And if you start with quality, how can you go wrong? It's like cooking dishes. If you have cheap, crappy pans, you know what that's like. I mean, you have to insist on quality and do it with intention. I really try to give myself a little bit of a wide berth on finding something to completing it. But every day, if you do something with intention, it all does manifest in the right way. Is that 3 things or is that 18? I don't know.
It was all wonderful. Jen,
Okay.
we didn't know each other. We crossed on social media. And I'll tell you, this is why I do this podcast, is to meet people like you with the stories that you've just shared and the life journey that you've had.
Thank you.
That are not your typical luxury, here's how I did, hooty hoo type of stuff. This is
and down in Palm Springs on Sunday at Bronx, we met the loveliest couple. Yeah.
And this whole podcast is a mixture of like everybody. This is from everyday designers to celebrities to influencers, because this is kind of a community spot. And so I loved hearing your story today and just sharing this moment with you. You are a beautiful soul, and I just dig everything about this. I'm so glad for our interaction. Jen, how can people find out more about you and your business?
I have a website, which is my name, Decor, Jen Zervas Decor. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I mean, I'm on Cherish, First Dibs, Etsy. You Google my name and like thousands of images come up. 3 pictures of me, a bunch of dogs, and then a lot of furniture. So it's all out there. I'm like Wendy at the skating rink. My name's all over the bathroom wall. You can't miss me.
Well, Jen, it's been a blast having you on. And again, this episode is the soul of this entire podcast. So thank you so much for sharing. Yeah.
Thank you. Happy holidays, sir.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Design Talk Live podcast. The Design Talk Live podcast is produced by the Live Broadcast Network, Joseph Hecker Inc., and Design Talk Live Studios. This episode was produced by Eric Miller. The theme song for our show is Cielo and is used under a Creative Commons license. Editing was done by Greg Stevens. Mixing and mastering by Melanie Kim. To be a guest on the show or to become a sponsor, please visit us at josephhecker.com/DesignTalkLive. That's josephhecker.com/DesignTalkLive. Until next time, say hi to someone new. You never know who you'll meet.
Look, Mom, I made
Yeah, and that'd go for